What makes you relate to a character? The way manga is structured, it perfectly captures moments in time, and those moments in time capture characters and feelings. Those characters capture something we see in ourselves, things that people feel, or things that we want to feel, to be different and stand out in some way, to see that reflected in the things we enjoy. What we want is our own individuality recognized, and that's why people live vicariously through these characters. And your favorite is always the one who draws the most feeling out of you. For the longest time now, I've dodged and skimmed past panels of this manga when they come on my timeline, because seeing them feels like reopening a deep wound. When I see PunPun, I relate heavily. There are different types of stories in life. Sometimes the story ends well, sometimes it ends badly. That's why you need stories that capture these different experiences. PunPun's life is an unrelenting, unending terribleness that seems like an all-consuming void. He makes bad decisions, wrongs some people, and is treated terribly by the ones that are supposed to care for him the most. That is real. Seeing so many missteps we make when we are young perfectly reflected in this kid's rough life and upbringing, especially because a kid growing up in an unhealthy environment is never going to make healthy choices. PunPun is such an awful story, and that's why it's so amazing. It is complete mental anguish that takes up his entire life. And after giving up and losing everything, after starting from nothing, the story isn't some artful ending about deciding to die or being the ultimate poetic tragedy and becoming a martyr for the people who have to deal with horrible circumstances. It's an extremely realistic and painful story about continuing forward, living past all that's happened, even if you hated the idea of going on with your life. The idea that after all that happened, after all the insane shit you witnessed, now you just have to go back to being normal. A story where you give your soul to try to make it out, and it completely ruins you, but at the end, you don't get to be better off than others. You're not even worse off. You have given your entire life and had everything before you completely decay, but in the end, it's nothing special. Sometimes all your efforts just amount to average, and in the eyes of the cold, harsh world, you are not special just because you suffered. This is a very specific feeling I remember from sitting at dinner the night I graduated high school, and the weight of the world sank in. You have to fight for your fucking life just to change terrible situations and rise above your circumstances. Yet, everything you had just got you a seat at the table like everyone else. And sometimes when I think about that ending, I think it hurts more than just another tragedy or pick-me-up. A tragedy. Reading the first chapter of Tokyo Ghoul and predicting where it ends up would be nearly impossible. Kaneki is possibly the peak example of a 2014 Hot Topic teen self-insert there could be. Whiny, weak-willed, introverted, nerdy, and shy, but also smart and nice and honest and sweet. The typical nice guy image, and on top of it all, the beautiful, intellectual girl starts talking to him and wants to go on a date, which turns out to be a setup. He was a victim, and he's sent spiraling into this dark, violent world fit for the edgiest teenager's fantasy. He becomes the ultimate OP badass while still nice and caring for those around him. Everyone wanted to be Kaneki, but I think the actual reason the masses at large liked him was because he was the ultimate reactionary character. He wasn't some shonen MC that decided to risk his life for a stranger and got the powers of God for it. He was pushed around. He rarely made his own choices. Most of the things he chooses to do are as a result of things being done to him. He didn't take the initiative and change the world. He wasn't the savior. He was someone who was not built for his struggles and was forced to just deal with it. A lot of people don't have the strength to change their life, so when all the misfortune comes to quiet Kaneki and he gets beaten down by the world with little say in what happens to him or his life, that is why he's so relatable. And that is why I love Reiji Kurose so much. I could say a lot about Boys Abyss, but from the moment it starts, there was something about this manga that just felt off. This world the town inhabits feels so suffocating and binding. All Kurose wants is to get away and live his own life, enjoy his own time, and leave things behind. But he can't. As the story goes on, he only gets drawn further into drama and detachments until all you see is a whirlwind of fucked up things and exhausting relationships he gets pulled back into. And at the end of all of it, he just wants to get away and be himself. He starts off as a normal kid, but the worries over his future and what kind of life he'll live get to him. He has to deal with so much baggage from others that it changes and warps him, and all anyone around him cares about is what they want. Meanwhile, everything he's experienced has conditioned himself to believe only the worst can happen. His entire life has been guided by people trying to choose his future for him until it felt like he had nothing at all. And eventually, this leads him to understand that things will only get worse. He becomes moodier and tries to find his own way through to escape, but it's hard, and you see him become so much more cynical and jaded and borderline angry as he sees the world going around him and what he's been given in turn. He's led to believe over and over that any happiness is just a brief escape, and that he isn't deserving of success or support, something that I strongly relate to. But what happens when you never even have the hope of your own space from the time you're born? What happens when you're born into such endless, infinitely layered mental trauma and manipulation that you never even had your own concept of self? Shino Wadachi is an example of a rampage of negative emotions, hate, trauma, and child abuse to an unthinkable degree, but not conventionally. Seiichi has an overworking father and an overbearing mother. Without getting into too much, he's the result of what a parent wants rather than what a parent has. He's molded into this shell he could never control, and eventually it reaches the point he breaks apart, and in the blink of an eye 20 years pass. 20 years, and it all comes apart as he realizes he's not even a person, just a broken pile of bits of a personality that was never his. 20 years of apathy, isolation, coldness, and living for nothing. 20 years just for an obligation to trudge through life to keep up appearances. 20 years for him to realize he's not even human. Seiichi walks around like a ghost, a specter of a person left over from society. His impact and interactions are like a wisp of someone who was once there. After everything that happened, after everyone had gone away, when he was only left with himself, all he had were shattered pieces of an identity that was never his. Something that was never even whole. I could say so much more and want to. I need to make a deep dive into this profoundly disturbing and horrifying story, but that's for another time. Seiichi's path was determined from the moment he was born into the world. Just like Eren Yeager. The amount of Mappa Eren profile pictures plaguing the internet makes it hard to even discuss this or take it seriously, let alone make an in-depth video without coming off as a fake deep 14-year-old, but believe me when I say I am trying my hardest to make this and distinguish it all from teenage self-inserts. I think everyone has a certain part of them they are born with. You can change as a person and mold your personality, but instinctually, deep down, I feel we all have at least one trait that nags at us whenever we try to change or push it all down. The relief and love people have for Eren's character is just that. He's shown who he is deep down. The mystery and tragedy that plagued his life in the end was just part of him. He was born into the world and had parts of himself that were always there, glaring through. Those parts stayed dormant and the story progressed until Eren realized his true nature and everything changed. The idea of accepting and fully embracing your innate nature after so long, to stop denying who you are and recognize every piece of yourself and take it into your being, of just living and recognizing parts of yourself that have always been there, of being who you truly are deep down, regardless of how the world will see you. 3 Days of Happiness is an example of what happens when there is none of that. Not everyone can be lucky. Not everyone can be born into the world to be great or even important or have some impact or some special part about them, even if it is evil. Some people are just born. Some people are just born and they get unlucky. So their entire life will amount to nothing and they have to suffer. The idea that this could be told to your face is really comforting. That you could know all the terrible shit you'd go through in life and avoid it, trade your life for money, and take all of that misery and at least get something out of it, and then use what little time you have left to make what you want out of life. That in that situation, you could still meet someone and at least have a connection, that you could even throw it all away and be okay with it as long as in your last moments, you at least get to be close to someone at the end. That's probably why so many long-distance e-couples are obsessed with this manga. Speaking of obsessed, Berserk is possibly the peak of literally meme manga characters. Many people relate to Guts on an intimate level. Even I heavily relate to Guts, and Berserk is one of my favorite manga of all time. Guts is what people want to see above all else. Ultimate perseverance. The idea of not giving in no matter what. Although this is a great aspiration, I think almost none of the people that relate to this can actualize it themselves, but the thought of toughing it out is nice to the masses. Guts goes through hell and is still kicking. He's the goal and inspiration to a lot of people, even though it's nearly impossible to reach the same heights. To go beyond normal and rise above everything tearing you down. Tomodachi Game seemed normal at first for a death game, but it quickly set itself apart. Katagiri Yuichi is extremely intelligent and perceptive, yet he's also a lonely kid that grew up dirt poor, who's shown to be a total scumbag. Katagiri Yuichi is one of the more cringeworthy and stereotypical literally me characters. Everyone thinks they're the most intelligent. Everyone wants to be the Sigma empath social manipulator with the world in the palm of their hand. That's where the humor in this type of thing comes from. And it's easy to see why with all the ridiculous faces he makes. He's set up to always be the one in control, so it's hard to take seriously sometimes, but the real reason people take interest is because everyone has felt like the outsider. Like Yuichi. It's cool to be the one that doesn't fit in nowadays, yet the reason I find Yuichi so interesting is because his story shows that even when you want to move on from something, sometimes the world just won't let you. Even after you take control of your life, you still have to fight for it, because there will always be someone trying to drag you down. Everyone has gotten pulled back into some drama or conflict at some point in time, even if they didn't want to. Yuichi tries to hide himself from others and live his own life, but he can't. What some people want is to hide their true feelings. You look at any content creator, especially VTubers who used to go on 4chan, and you see that a lot of them desperately try to push an image. Quite often, every decision, every public standpoint is carefully orchestrated to be as accessible and acceptable as possible, especially when said characters are managed by large companies that control the industry. This is one important lesson that everyone needs to learn in life. You don't fuck up the bag. When you involve money, things become serious. That's why everyone learns to be a certain way once they become a celebrity. Why everyone says their favorite creator changed. Why I'm probably going to change. You have to learn, you don't fuck up the bag. Everyone wants to have this skill of building a facade and hiding their more unsavory parts. Everyone thinks they're the mastermind. Everyone wants to be Johan Liebert, to hide exactly what you want and orchestrate your public persona perfectly. Everyone tells little white lies. Everyone wants to show themselves in a certain light. Every move Johan makes is calculated and completely detached. So many people want to solve things strictly logically, but it's so difficult to not have emotions guiding you. Social interaction is mostly a game of acting and finding people who you're comfortable around enough to drop the ball a little. This is built into humans naturally, which is why they relate to Johan in that way, and why he is so compelling. That lack of empathy is what makes him legendary. And empathy is what made Akira Fudo from Devilman so iconic. This manga goes back a long time, and it was incredibly influential. The allure of Akira was that he was weak and timid. He cried a lot, and he was very emotional. The idea that weakness and vulnerability was so prominently part of a main character was one of the most intriguing parts of the series when it first came out. After Akira became Devilman and joined with Amon, he changed drastically. Yet at his core, through the violence and dark nature he absorbed, he still retained compassion and empathy for humans. That's why so many people were enamored by Devilman. It's a shame the ending is complete dog shit. Should you even try to change? Is there even a point in wanting to be different and throwing your all against the wall just to come up short every single time? Vagabond is the story of being lost and finding something, realizing that you are not what matters to the world, but the way in which you choose to inhabit it. I can personally tell you that change is worth it, but for all intents and purposes, it is generally impossible for someone to change. You may be asking yourself, but spare mango, everyone can change, everyone has potential, but to that I would generally say no. I mean a life change, a soul-transforming journey that you have to go through on your own to fundamentally see the world differently, and find out who you are and how to get to the best and truest version of yourself. I don't mean taking cold showers or cleaning your room. I don't mean being more polite or trying to pick up new habits. I mean investing every fiber of your being into trying to change and miserably failing. And after all that, I got up immediately and tried again without question. This is the type of change that doesn't just happen. Even if you ride a wave of inspiration, it's short-lived. It takes so painfully long that you question if you're even doing anything. That's why people love Musashi Miyamoto, finding a different meaning in life and deciding to live by it. But it's a very gradual thing. Musashi doesn't wake up a new person, he doesn't have an epiphany and live differently. He goes through a long, difficult process of self-discovery and meaning. The success doesn't just happen. It takes inconceivable amounts of work, and even then it's a constant effort from Musashi. The reason people relate to him is because everyone wants to be above it all, to be so at peace with themselves that they stop wanting to indulge in conflict, to have that inner peace that allows them to give themselves the chance to relax and see the world for what it is. Maybe the best explanation is to say that in a certain sense, Musashi becomes weightless, and that's a feeling in modern times that is impossible to achieve. Isagi Oishi, but more specifically Blue Lock as a whole, completely overcome their limitations through sheer hunger and desire, and it gets your blood pumping when you think about it, and times in your own life when you've surpassed your expectations. To see Isagi time after time discounted and tossed to the side, only to claw his way back to the front, is a special feeling. A different kind of euphoria that's hard to describe, and that's why people that understand and resonate with this manga are so passionate about it. RURI Dragon is a manga about a high school girl that finds out she's half dragon, and it causes her to open up and start making more friends and spending time with others. When I see her drinking Starbucks and taking selfies and doing homework with her friends and lighting people on fire, I can't help but think, wow, she's just like me. Just like this guy. You see this guy? Me and him are literally the same. I am exactly like him. We are editor Spare Mango here. This is a joke. Please do not take this seriously. I'm joking. I'm not.
自分が作ったアニメは好きですか？
まあ好きといえば好きですけど、結構嫌いなところもあります。
嫌いなところはどんなところですか？
Recently, I've been realizing the reasons I can relate to Shinji Ikari so much. But I think the reason most people see themselves in Shinji is because he was a kid who was defined by others' expectations of him, and had to navigate through that to find his own meaning anyways. He didn't matter until Gendo needed him and made him become a pilot. He's only useful to Misato because he's uniquely capable of piloting Unit 1, and that role defines what others treat him as. Even other kids expect him to be a certain way. It seems like Shinji is bullied, but from the kid's perspective, he is the pilot responsible for everything that happens, including Toji's little sister getting hurt. This anger and prejudice is only undone when Toji witnesses Shinji suffering while fighting the angels, and his perspective and expectations shift. He realizes Shinji isn't an apathetic, ace pilot scumbag who doesn't care when others get hurt. Toji sees that, just like his little sister, Shinji is a hurting kid who's only doing what he can to help others at the cost of his own safety. Ironically, most other characters are incapable of changing their expectations of Shinji, and those who do all have the same initial expectations of him. Rei sees him as just another tool for Gendo, so when her expectations of him fall through, she is the one to step up. She gets angry, and one of the few instances she displays emotion is when Shinji insults his father. She expects him to be a pawn for Gendo, like she is, because the blind feelings she has towards wanting to impress Gendo bleed into everything else she does. Asuka expects Shinji to be a certain way, and gets angry when Shinji doesn't live up to the expectations she has for what she thinks a man should be. It's all based on what she perceives as valuable, performance and social proof. She's led to think the most important thing in the world is being a pilot and proving to the world that she matters and that she is valuable as a person. But due to her upbringing and past trauma, the only way she can conceive of self-worth is to show results and harshly judge others by their performance, because outside of that metric, she has nothing, and she's reduced to that scared girl that saw her mother. She projects these impossible expectations she has for herself onto Shinji because to her, he's the only other one who could handle and understand that situation. They bicker and she can't get what she thinks she wants from Kaji. So when Asuka seeks that out in Shinji and is met with disinterest and disappointment based on her expectations, it gets to her. Most importantly though is Misato. She's called a predator and there are so many jokes and memes about it, but there are subtle details that shows us she's much more depraved than you think on a surface level. Misato has expectations of Shinji, herself, Kaji, and others that influence the actions she takes to get what she wants. Gendo needs Shinji to pilot Unit 1, so she lures Shinji to her by sending a postcard of a revealing photo of herself to a lonely teenage boy without a family to get his attention. She expects him to be a gear in the machine of nerve and uses whatever means to get to that end. She acts nice and friendly and compassionate, but when things get dangerous, she casually tells these 3 kids that they are going to die and to write a will, and the way she delivers it is so uncaring. She presents a facade of passion and love and intimacy, but is also complicit in manipulating and sending kids to their deaths when not outright harming them, often in inappropriate ways, to reach her expectations of them being a tool for her. Across the story, Misato gradually becomes more genuine, and by the end, she sees the error in her ways, but still uses sexuality to manipulate others. She knows Shinji needs to survive, that the only way is to get him in the Eva, but he's in a severe depression, so she resorts to the one way she knows to effectively manipulate others so that he'll come out of his emotional state. Misato knows she is going to die here, but regardless, sees that this is the only way to get Shinji to know what to do. Even if this time it's for the best to save lives, it shows that to the end, others have expectations of Shinji and are willing to deceive him and push him in the direction he needs to go. These expectations are amplified and demonstrated when instrumentality merges all souls together and Shinji runs through interactions with all of them. Eventually though, Shinji casts away all the things wanted in the world and makes his own decision in the end, even though he knows it will hurt him. Almost no one saw Shinji. The only thing that mattered to most are the expectations others had for him. Yet, the most important theme in Mob Psycho 100 are the expectations Mob has for himself. Time and time again, we see Mob employ restraint. Others tell him to use his powers. Everyone sees how gifted he is, how easy his life could be. He could be jacked by stimulating his muscles with powers. He could show off to make friends and attract the girl he likes. He could use it in any number of ways to skip ahead in life. Mob's friends and family want him to give in and use his powers to make his life easier, but Mob will never let that happen. Mob does not want to let his powers define him. He wants to define his powers. He is the strongest being alive, knows others are manipulating him and conniving, but he doesn't see them for their evil. He sees what value they bring and what they could grow into. Constantly, Mob is reflected in the villains that show up. Losers and rejects of society that let their power get to them and take the easy way out. They stop trying and develop inhuman egos due to the supernatural gifts they receive. Yet Mob always tries to help and heal them. He knows what it's like. He knows that they aren't all bad, just misguided. Even when the world is falling apart, he will still reach a hand out to help anyone he sees suffering. To Mob, expectations are what define him and others. Villains had the expectations of society placed on their shoulders, so they caved in and cheated life to get to where they are. Mob's expectations of himself are what guide all of his choices. He never wants to hurt anyone, and much of his internal struggle comes when he has no choice but to fight. From an early age, he saw the pain he would inflict on everyone he loves if he was not careful. This led to him sealing away a part of himself to prevent that. The people Mob surrounded himself with guided and reinforced his expectations of himself, which in turn strengthened him. That's why, in the end, after unleashing his power and enjoying a fight for the first time, he still feels horrible anguish. He didn't hurt anyone, he was still fighting to save the world, but the fact that his expectations slipped for even a second and he betrayed himself deeply hurt him. Yet he used that failure to even further strengthen his dedication to walking down the right path. Mob wants so much out of life and works so hard to achieve it, which is what gives everything around him value. That insight turns into perspective, and it's what lets him see other people for who they are and value them anyways, regardless if they're a murderous punk, a jobless loser, or a genocidal psychopath. Mob's internalized expectations keep him grounded in reality while giving him the ability to ignore society's expectations on the poor and downtrodden, and that lets him choose love and empathy over hate. Circling back, I'd like to end this on the serious note that I started it. Happiness is such a special manga to me, and I never really planned to talk about it, let alone here, but looking for a closer, this just fits. So much happens in this manga in such a short time, and it's one of the most surprising and unconventional reads I've ever had. Yet, the one thing that immediately stuck out strongly to me was the main character. Makoto is a nerdy high school kid being pushed around. He's a total wimp, and it doesn't change. People often don't just decide to change. The change occurs when something happens, and you are forced to make a decision. I want to keep this spoiler free, and to be honest, this is one of the manga I'd rather talk less about and keep special just to myself. So think of this as a treat from me to you for watching this far. Makoto is attacked by a supernatural woman late at night, and he either has to be her servant for eternity or die. He chooses to live, like everyone else would, but this sets him down a path where he's forced to make difficult decisions and adapt. What sets Makoto in the story apart is that normally there would be some cliche trope where he forces his own way to work and gets everything he wants. But no, he himself has to make important, heart-wrenching decisions. Normally, a story would make it so things end up fine anyways, but all of his choices greatly impact his life. Fuck, this manga means so much to me. It's been a while since I've given it more than a passing thought. I love it. When you're younger, you see characters in shows or movies making dumb decisions. They have the ultimate fantasy situation in their hands, but they unrealistically turn down the choice of a lifetime for a cliche ending where everything returns to the status quo, and everyone lives happily ever after. This manga is nothing like that. Makoto has his entire world flipped around, and as time goes on, he finds out he has to let things go, to move on. He gains perspective on the world, and even though it hurt, he has to make difficult decisions, to leave things behind, and to do what's right, even if it hurts, even if it kills him inside. Makoto isn't some insane protagonist with a huge dream. He's just a kid that was at the wrong place at the wrong time, that is forced to grow and change in ways he never thought he would, become something that he never thought he would be. He's forced to move on and find his own path in life and make his own decisions, even when he's hopelessly lost. This manga, more than anything else, is about moving on, letting go, moving forward, and I think that's why it means so much to me. If you like this, I think you should stick around and subscribe. Could drop a like and recommend some manga you think I missed. And that's literally how I've found some of my favorite, absolute greatest manga I've read since starting YouTube. Lastly, this is for all the real ones watching. This video marks the start of a new era in my channel, which is why it's taken so long to get out. Oh fuck, I've re-recorded this shit so many fucking times. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. I realized, no, this content here is going to be simply different. So as a result, I decided that I would just fucking re-record this, which is a great choice because this is like 100 fucking times better than it was going to be before. So yeah, thank you everyone so much. If this video does not pop off, I will actually like break mentally. Like I genuinely, cause I don't even want to fucking get into it, I guess. This is like the one time I'm ever gonna say this, but sometimes I write shit in the description, so if you want to hear more about that. But at least it's now done and gotten better at naturally over time. Also, the audio quality is so much better. But thank you, genuinely. This is just the start, but thank you so fucking much for the ones that are still here watching. Alright, what should you say? If you're still watching, comment. Just say spare, I guess, in the comments, so I know you're a real one. Alright, fuck. Alright. fuck. Just had to establish that real quick. Stop all the talking, show y'all I actually am a different breed, so here you go. And this is just the start. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. With all that being said, I loved making this video because seeing each character made me think, wow, they're literally me. Sorry, alright, bye, alright, goodbye.